a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Small Talk. Well, my guest today, I believe, has two different careers. A lot of people do, and so that's always interesting to me. So I'm really happy to introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, Dean Goodline. Welcome to the show, Dean.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, Nancy. Thank you for having me on. Really nice to chat with you.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Now, I know you work in the film industry, correct?
Correct.
So in what capacity?
I'm a motion picture property master, and what that means is anything an actor handles on a film set, everything from food to medical instruments to weapons, anything they physically touch, move, interact with to create their character. That's my job, is to put that in their hands.
Oh, I love that. When did you get involved in doing that?
1986. In 1985, I went to the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology and took their film, television, and radio program. And in 1986, I got a summer job on a CTV series called Hamilton's Quest, and started working in film as a summer job, and actually didn't complete school because I kept getting calls to go to work in film. And so I was planned on going back, but 37 years later, I haven't quite made it back yet.
Now, have you ever done any acting as well?
Oh God, no. You certainly, I mean, the fact that I'm on air here, I have a face for radio, as we used to joke. So no desire to ever be in front of the camera. I did accidentally end up in a scene in Cool Runnings where the director put me in a scene with a character named Dougie Doug. And in the tent, he's going up feeling very Olympic today. The Russian giving him the dirty look is me in that movie. As close as I ever got.
Yeah, for sure. Now that's cool though. Now, in your doing that job, in your capacity, you must have come across some actors that we would know.
Oh yes, pretty much any household name you want to throw out there. I've worked with Anthony Hopkins twice. I've worked with Brad Pitt twice. I've worked with Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Kate Winslet, Sandra Bullock. The list is pretty much endless in my 37 years. It's I've been very lucky. I always joke that I'm a bit of a Forrest Gump. I keep wandering into these famous people's lives, and I have no idea how I got there, but I certainly enjoy working with them, and they're all really nice people, I'm pleased to say.
I love hearing that. I'm one of these people who does not like hearing bad things about when I like somebody, like an actor or an actress. I don't want to hear that they do nasty things. I like the opposite.
So, I haven't encountered that in 37 years.
Good, yeah. Do you have any interesting stories, or that you could share? Any?
I have lots of stories. I guess for me to narrow one down would be my very first day on the movie Unforgiven. I was working on Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood Western.
Right.
And I was the local hire. I was working with Clint's legendary prop master, Eddie Iona, who'd worked on Magnum Force with them and Outlaw Josie Wales. And any of us of my age grew up watching Clint Eastwood movies. So the fact that I was going to work on a Clint Eastwood movie was not lost on me. So the night before filming in Brooks, Alberta, I was laying in the motel that they rented for the crew. I think I slept about an hour and a half because I was worried about sleeping in. B, I was very excited to work with Clint Eastwood. And so I'm laying there imagining all the things that I would say to Clint when I saw him the first time and everything. And what would my first moments be on that Western? And when I got to set the next morning, my boss, Eddie, looked at this big Teamster driver that he had who brought his 40-footer up from LA. And he said, "Hey, Charlie, I saw some beautiful wildflowers about a mile down the road. Can you take Dean in the rental car and go get them or pick them?" So I went back because Clint had to do a graveside flower scene at his wife's grave in the movie. So we're in the ditch picking flowers, and all of a sudden this lone vehicle slows down and there's a person in the vehicle looking at us with a grin as we're picking the flowers, and it was Clint. So my first moment of Clint Eastwood and Clint Eastwood see me was me picking a bouquet of flowers for him. And I think I even did a pathetic wave to him.
Yeah.
And so an hour later, we're inside the mud hut and we're preparing. There's a scene where Clint shoots a can off a stump with this pistol. And so we're loading it and getting it ready to do the shot. And Clint walks in. He goes, I've seen a lot of things in my career on my way to set. He said, but this is the first time I've seen a teamster and a prop man picking flowers. So that was my first moment with Clint Eastwood, picking a bouquet of flowers for him.
I love it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and it is interesting, because like I wonder how I would act with somebody who's, famous actor. I mean, I was in an elevator with Ryan Stiles, improv, and
Yeah.
I was too shy to say anything.
Well, you're right, and I think that's the way. I think Clint probably thought I was somewhat of a mutant illiterate person, because I don't think I ever spoke to him on the movie the entire time. I'm a pretty quiet individual on set anyway, and that's why I am around actors. I'm very quiet, and you have to sort of have two brains. It's like, one, you're a fan, but when you're sitting there with them and you have to talk about the movie or their character, because my job is to ask them about their character. My job is to bring the technical advisors in to teach them how to be that character. So I sit there, we go through the script pretty much with most of the actors I work with. I have a conversation about their character and we talk about specific scenes. Yeah. And I remember I did a Western called Open Range with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall. And there was a big snowstorm coming into Calgary. I'd only been on the movie for, I think, about 4 days. And I got a phone call saying, hey, we're planning this big scout. Kevin's coming to town, but there's going to be a big storm forecast. So if he can't go out, can you have a meeting with him? And I said, sure. And so the Monday came, sure enough, big snowstorm. And suddenly I have to sit down with Kevin Costner for a couple of hours to go through the Open Range script and present all my ideas to him. And moments before he comes in, my first reaction is, this is Kevin Costner. This is Dances with Wolves. This is all those great movies in the 80s and early 90s that I loved. But I had to put that away and become Dean Goodline prop master and talk about all my ideas for the film with him. And he presented his ideas so that I make sure that I'm bringing the right things to the set. So you have this brain, just like when working with Anthony Hopkins, we all loved Silence of the Lambs. And shortly after I meet him on Legends of the Fall, and the same thing, you have to put yourself in work brain, because they're no different than we are when we get to a set. They want to come to set prepared. They want to be safe. They want to be secure. They want to know that we're doing our jobs to make their jobs easy. And so you just go into that mode when you're working with them.
Right, of course, because there's always that opportunity afterwards if they're going to engage you in, just some chit chat afterwards, right? That there's that, you have that option later on. But as you say, get down to doing your job, right?
Yeah, I rarely, when they come to set, will I, chit chat with them, because they have a lot of lines to remember. They have a lot of things going on. So I let them engage me first before I, as far as anything away from, say, their character. If they just are talking about the weather or what they did on the weekend, that kind of thing, I'm happy to engage, but it's not anything that I will initiate with them on a set.
Very good. Yeah. No, you have a second career?
Well, I wouldn't call it a second career. I have an accidental career.
Okay, I like that.
I about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I was working on a film, and I tended to journal a lot the last 5 or 6 years. I was trying to use my Facebook page for positive, funny stories and putting music posts up and not getting into any politics or any of that. I felt like there are certain places that if people come onto my page, I just want them to leave with a smile. So I would tell little funny film stories, and every now and then somebody would say, oh, you should write a book. And I was always like, I'm not writing a book. I don't have time to write a book. And who would want to read a book by a prop master? So anyway, I'm working on a film, name dropper here. I was working on The Unforgivable Sandra Bullock, who is quite lovely, by the way,
nice
to work with. And at night, I just came home to sort of just take my brain out of the movie to give it a rest, because you're always thinking when you're working. I started to write a manuscript. And then, of course, the pandemic hit halfway through the film, and all of a sudden we were all home for 4 months. And I continued to write it. And I sent it to a really good friend of mine. He read it, sent it back to me and said, well, it's quite funny and it's good, but he said, you have to put yourself in it. And I'm like, I don't want to be in the book. He goes, you wrote a memoir. You have to be in the memoir. That's what a memoir is. You're like supposed to be in it. So I took it back. I took his advice because he's a really smart guy. And I wrote another 30,000 pages or words and put myself in the book. And so I ended up writing a book called They Don't Pay Me to Say No. And which was an adage I took on years ago in a gig economy. When you're working as a freelancer, if you said no too many times, nobody's going to call you back.
For sure.
So you always had to find the balance of how to say no, and come up with an alternative solution to that no. So you always had to have I can't do that because it's not safe, but we can do this because it is safe. Anything like that. So you always had to have a plan B, C, and D. And so I always came up with the adage, they don't pay me to say no. And so it felt like an appropriate title for a department that could ask for something about every second hour of the day. You could ask for something that you didn't plan, you didn't think of. And they're like, hey, for this next scene, we'd like to have a big meal for everybody. So you're like scrambling, trying to get it done. So that's kind of my world. Our world is a crazy world. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows about our world. There are no awards for props. It's a very small club, so to speak.
Right.
But we are the department that puts the last item in an actor's hands before the camera rolls 95% of the time. The last person to go in and interact with the actor before the camera rolls virtually every time is a prop person, because we're either giving them a weapon, we're either giving them food, we're either giving them a drink, we're putting eyeglasses on them, we're doing something with them, or giving them that map that is the key piece of their survival, that insert on that map, or we're giving them the pliers to cut the red wire or the green wire on the bomb we built for the scene. We're always in there, but yet if we do our job well, nobody knows we're there because nobody calls us on the radio, nobody's looking for us, we're just there.
Right. Fascinating. It really is fascinating, I think, I mean, I would think it would be awesome to be like a fly on a wall when you're doing your job, to be just watching all of that. That would be really cool.
I kind of joke that our job, we kind of are the flies on the wall because we're kind of there, and we always have to watch, like if an actor what they're doing with their prop and what line they're interacting with it, so that if we do a cut and all of a sudden they're working with the tool and they can't remember the line that they put it down, or they put it in moved it from the left hand or the right hand, we always have to say, you did that on the word such and such, you move that into your right hand. So we're always watching our props in action of the scene, because we don't want to be watching the movie and have the prop is there, the prop is gone, the prop is in the left hand, now it's in the right hand. Oh, where did it go? We don't want to be that department.
Right. What would you say would be the most unusual thing you were asked to provide, if anything?
Oh, well, the one prop I did say no to was I was asked to provide a real dead body for a scene.
Did you have to kill?
Yeah. I looked at the director and I went, okay, here's the deal. When somebody donates their body to science, it's not so that they can be thrown in a ditch with a bullet hole in their head. Right. So let's use a stuntman with makeup instead. And so that was the most unusual, but we're always trying to find crazy, unusual things. I did on Legends of the Fall, we were asked to find 5 firing World War I cannons, German cannons.
Wow.
And when I phoned the National War Museum in Ottawa, and the guy just basically gave me an undressing, like, you're never going to find one. Every cannon that was brought back to Canada, captured piece of armament, was cemented off so it could never be used again against the crown. And so I hung up the phone and thought, well, I guess that's going to be impossible. But we're prop people. You'd say impossible to us. We're like, okay, there's got to be a way.
Yeah.
So we had an American prop person on our crew as well. So we took it on, and he found 3 cannons in the States, two in Georgia and one in Sacramento.
Right.
And I was still stuck on the Canada ones. And finally, after about a month, I heard about one at the Gleason Legion Hall in southeastern Alberta. And when I drove out there to see it, sure enough, there it was, not cemented. It was in pretty good shape, but we were going to do a lot of work. So I said to the guy, I said, listen, we have a $5,000 budget. Can we rent this from you? We'll take it away. I'll have it fully restored to brand new condition and we'll bring it back to you. And the guy goes, so let me get this straight. You're going to give us $5,000 for this old gun. You're going to take it away and fully restore it. And then you're going to bring it back to us like new? And I go, yeah. He goes, do you want the other one? I'm like, the other one? And he had another one in the shed in the back under a pile of lumber and some tarps.
Oh my
and
God.
So he thought he won the lottery. And I'm sitting there going, I can't believe I found them. I phoned the War Museum guy, the World War I guy, for another question about entrenching tools shortly after that. And he was like super condescending as usual. And he goes, how'd you make out with your cannons? And I go, oh, we got them. And you could almost hear the air deflate over the phone.
Marvelous.
And he said, well, where did you find them? I said, we found 3 in the States and 2 in Canada. He said, where in Canada? I said, I'm not telling you.
Good.
Ironically, one of them is in the Calgary War Museum on their Vimy Ridge display. At least it was when I was doing Passchendaele.
Okay.
And the other one is on a cenotaph in Brooks, Alberta. So those 2 fully restored cannons are from Legends of the Fall.
Now, was there how did you get them on set? Like, how did you get them from that point A to point B, you know, where you needed them?
Well, we have, all films have a large transportation department run by the Teamsters, and we have cranes at our disposal. And so I just basically arranged with the Teamsters. We sent a flat deck truck, and then we trucked them up from the States as well. And then we had cranes to lift them into place. And so we have no trouble moving stuff around, especially on a big Hollywood film. There's certainly a large component of support for all of that stuff.
Right. Now let's get back to Disney. Let's get back to your book.
Yeah. So anyway, the book, look, bad prop moment. There's the book.
Okay.
That's me carrying a cow on the cover. Did a movie called
awesome.
Yeah. So I did a movie called The Virginian in Alberta for Turner years ago. And I had to have a cow sort of dead on the prairie for a shot of Diane Lane sees how harsh the prairies are. She sees dead livestock on her way to be a school teacher. And so I had one of my wonderful prop builders build this lightweight cow so that I could just carry it out and put it down in the field. So, so the book was, it came out about 5 months ago. And
right.
Yeah, I self-published it. I tried to send it out. I sent it out to some publishers. Didn't really get a lot of traction because, like I always thought, well, who wants to read a book by a prop master? But I had a really nice letter back. I had a really nice letter back from one publisher who said, "We really like the book, but it doesn't really fit in any of our, our categories." And so I contacted a company in Friesen Press, and they guided me through the self-publishing process, and we put it out. My goal was to sell it to 5 people. I don't know. That was I was very modest. I thought, well, friends and family will buy it or have it. Yeah. And I just wanted to leave it as a mentorship document for young filmmakers, because it's not just about props. It's about the change in filmmaking from 1986 through to now, and all the change, all the digital, all the CGI, the computer generated images and volume stages, blue screen. I just kind of sort of go through that era, and I talk about it's a series of short stories. I didn't want to do a how-to book. I wanted to make it so that anybody could read it and enjoy it. So I wrote it in a style of Stuart McLean stories with humor, and Bill Bryson stories. He's an American writer who's quite funny as well. And so I actually inject a lot of humor in the book. And my best compliments are always from people who don't work in the industry, that don't know me, that say how much they enjoyed the book. And that part is good for me. It's one thing to have people in the film industry enjoy it. It's another thing just to have somebody who doesn't work in the film industry and also have people who say, I had no idea what your job was in my own industry. They had no idea just the depth that we go to put the right thing in front of the camera.
I think I would like to read it.
Yeah, I think you'd probably enjoy it. I think coming from a...
How would people get a hold of it? Like, they contact you for a copy?
Actually, no, I'm not in the book selling business, which is good. Good. I don't want to be a bookseller. I have a few copies laying around, but I have a website.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has links to
I'll
all
get
of
that
the
afterwards.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the title of the book. It's just they don't pay me to say no.ca, and don't put the apostrophe in don't. So it's just DONT, no apostrophe. So they don't pay me to say no.ca. And there are links to Amazon, Indigo, Barnes and Noble. There's links to all the different sites. You can get it on Kindle and Apple Books as well for the digital copy. So it's been doing quite modestly okay. I'm quite surprised. It actually did make it on the Kindle site. It was #1 in the USA in movie director books. So there's like my book, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, which totally, I won't say my head exploded. I just sat there and stared at the screen like, how is this happening? Because I'm the publicist. I have no publicity. I've done very little publicity for the book because A, I'm too busy on my show, and B, I don't really like talking to people that much about it because I'm shy.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that I'm shy because I wrote a book about myself, but
that's a different thing though. It's not about yourself so much as the job, right?
Yeah. I part of me would like to find someone to be an agent or do something and just take it over. But on the other side of the coin, it's done really well. I mean, I think any author will tell you, unless you're Stephen King or whatever, it's like music now. It's getting harder and harder to make money off of things in this whole digital download universe that we live in. So for me, it was more about just wanting to leave something behind for young filmmakers, and if people buy it, that's great. But I'm more happy that it's in the Vancouver Public Library, it's in the Calgary Public Library, it's in a whole bunch of South Okanagan libraries, and no copies are available. They're always checked out. They have like 14 copies of the book, and they have like 18 holds at the Vancouver Public Library, and there's a bunch of holds at the Calgary Public Library. That for me is like, that's the win of all. I just can't believe it's in a library, and B, there are holds. And also my alum SAIT, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, have a few copies that they're using as part of their film program. I'm the dropout, but they're using my book. So there you go.
Well, there you go. I know I self-published a children's book, and again, I'm not a salesperson. I'm terrible at it, and I still have a book.
Yeah.
So I'm giving away occasionally, the new grant, a big
I do this.
Born
there,
yeah.
Same thing. It's just one of those, somebody says they want to read it. It's just really nice to have that happen. I think for anybody like yourself, any of us who self-publish or have the to do it, I have great admiration, more so now than before, for what the journey is to create something and then try to put it out, and then the energy it takes to put it out. And so I'm always in awe of people who do that now, and more so I'm writing a second book, but part of me is, I don't know if I'm ready for the journey of trying to self-publish again. My wife is quite a celebrated set decorator in Canada. She's retired now, and she's the only Canadian woman to have ever been nominated for an Oscar for set decoration in Canada. Like the only Canadian woman to have been nominated for an Oscar for set decoration. Let me say that correctly. And so she's had a long career and a lot of funny stories as well. So we're trying to figure out how to put together a book for her, because she was nominated for Unforgiven. She decorated the sets for Unforgiven, and her and I did the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford together, and we did Passchendaele together. So I think there's just how a married couple interact in these high pressure worlds in two different departments.
Sure.
And so I think there's something there for especially young women filmmakers, and journey through the Me Too era of film, and being told at one point there's no job for women in set dressing, and how dare she take a job from a man. So that's kind of the evolution of the industry for her.
Right. Oh, I'm going to have her on the show if she's willing.
She's more shy than I am. You'll never get her on the show. Oh my God. she's like, she's mortified of any publicity. Mortified. As a matter of fact, I'm always teasing her. Her painting is over my shoulder. She has a whole slew of paintings that she does. And I'm always saying, you need to put your art out there so people know it's there. And she's like, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
She's like, and now I understand, because I don't want to do the same thing for my book. So I understand.
I mean, I understand in a different way. I can do this anytime. I can be on stage, all of those things, in front of a camera. I love it. But I have trouble socializing. I have social anxiety. So
yeah. I go to when I'm away, if there's any large group, if there's a sort of a party setting or anything, I'm the wallflower over in the corner. Just look, and I keep looking at the door going, how can I actually make an exit and not have anybody notice? And suddenly when you're doing a reading or I did a book signing earlier this year at the Summerland Art Gallery, where my hometown in Summerland, BC. And I was like, how can I be the center of attention for this time? But then I ended up launching into a 90-minute stand-up comedy routine, because that's what the book became. I was just started telling stories, and they just came out so naturally that after about 90 minutes, I look and my wife's at the back going, like, stop talking. So yeah, once I get wound up, I can go pretty good, I guess.
Pretty quick. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting, isn't it, though? Like I force myself, I can't go to things alone. I'm fine if I have somebody with me. But even then, I come home, I'm so sore because I put myself so tight,
Yeah.
Same thing. I just, why am I doing? I told myself I'm not going next time,
I know. I've gone to films used to have, before COVID, they used to have wrap parties where, you finish a film and they would get together. And I think there have been many times I pulled up to the parking lot of the venue and sat and watched people going in, only to turn around and just drive home.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I know. I've been invited to, we had an event here in Chilliwack this summer, and a pride was to do with the Pride Parade, and I was one of the volunteers. And now they're planning get together for all the volunteers, and I'm thinking I'm not going to be there. There's no way.
Well, maybe if you can find someone to go with you, you'll kind of settle.
Well, that would be true. Yeah, that would. But it would have to be another person who volunteered.
Absolutely.
But anyway, the odds are I won't be there. But people, I'm upfront about it. If you can't figure out what. But
people that I work with know that about me as well. They're always like surprised if I actually do show up. They're like, "Oh, you came." I'm like, "Well."
And I'm sure you might get the same reaction because of what you do, and because you interact with famous actors and stuff. People assume that you're okay to go to other things, to do other things, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that working in entertainment, if you really, for that period of time, whether in your case, like you're a musician or an entertainer on a stage, or in my case, I'm on a film set for anywhere from 10 or 12 hours a day, you spend all week interacting with people, or you spend that hour putting yourself out there as an entertainer, or 2 hours. It's pretty draining, and so I don't know about you, but I become a very solitary person, which is why writing actually kind of worked for me, because I when I'm not home in the Okanagan, for instance, I'm in my Burnaby apartment right now because the roads are too bad to travel this weekend. This is when I kind of spend time just sort of plotting out what I'm going to write, what I'm going to do moving forward. So the quiet time, I'm fine in my own company alone, so to speak. And I also live in the country when I'm home, so I'm not around a lot of people at the best of times. I'm a small town guy in a big city.
Right. Like Zoom worked for me. Like where other people were stuck at home during COVID, to me, I'm in my glory, Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I live
on Zoom a lot. That's how we do a lot of our meetings, even with COVID. Step down a bit. I'm probably on Zoom at least 5-8 hours a week in meetings for our shows, planning how we're going to do things. So it's quite a comfortable environment for me now. But do you find how exhausted you are after Zoom? I find after Zoom, I'm more tired than if I was sitting in a room talking to somebody.
Well, not really, because like once this finished, and by the way, we've got 10 minutes left. Once this finishes, I have to render and I have to get it ready for airing. So it'll be after that like once that's all done, it's like, okay, now I can relax.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we'll jump back to If you want to ask some movie questions or book questions, fire away. And
Well, I think what I'll have to do, because only because we're running out of time, and I wanted to explore more.
Yeah.
How can we set up for you to return? Would that be okay with you?
What's that? Oh yeah, no, I'm
Another
fine to
interview?
return. Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I don't want to run out of time when if you're halfway through explaining something or talking about something, because I
Not
find
a
it
problem.
super interesting. I really enjoy this,
Oh
So
no, that's good.
that's
That's
what we
good.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I get off here and finish working on it, I will let you know when it's going to air, and I'll also send you some dates that you can choose from. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So for now, just stay on camera. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. So you've been listening to Dean Goodline, and I'm going to put his website. So if you want to check out his book, and I know I'm going to, because I just find it all so fascinating. Thank you everybody for watching the show. Take care, and peace out, folks.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.